Hello there you guys, welcome to my channel. Please don't forget to subscribe. So here we are in the middle of winter in Sweden, North Europe. It's slightly snowing and a couple of minus degrees. I finally got a new e-bike again. It's called the C1. Really cool and special. I'm very happy with it and can really recommend buying it. Right now they have a €150 Valentine's Day discount, which shows up when you add the product to your shopping cart. If you decide to buy it, please make sure you use my affiliate link in the description below. And by the way, don't be fooled, it's actually 27.5-inch wheels, so it suits even taller riders like me, who is 185 centimeters. This brand DYU seems good. It's a better option amongst all these cheaper e-bike alternatives. I've looked into their models. Besides this one, they have the heavier King 750 20 amp hour fat tire mountain bike, which I would love to try out. Might be the best price for that type of model, with a big engine, big battery and fat tires. They are really something special. If you want a smaller, compact, foldable bike, I recommend the FF 500 watt, which comes with fat tires. They also have a cheaper ones with smaller tires, but again, I recommend one of these three bikes: the C1, the King 750 or the FF 500. Choose for yourself, links in the description below. Again, please use my special links when you buy it. Now let's focus on this particular model. Here in Sweden, it is actually a class 2 moped, not an e-bike, and requires traffic insurance and license. The ones that go over 25 km/h are even worse. They are considered class 1 mopeds and even require a registration plate. But all of this only applies when driving in public, of course. Moving on, the quality feels solid on this bike. And the design is something else. It suits both male and female, and it's really nice to get on and off, mount and dismount thanks to the frame design. Although I wonder how easy it is to crack in half, so I would be a bit careful driving too hard with it. The squishy tires and long travel front suspension take up a lot of the forces, so even though DYU recommend against too hard off-road driving with this bike, I think in my personal opinion it should be fine if you're careful and you don't weigh too much. The max load is 120 kilos. If you take care of your bike, it should last a long while. The warranty of the frame and fork is 3 years and 1 year for the rest of the bike. Learn how to service it, it's easier than you think, and also learn about all the risks and how to prevent it from breaking, like water damaging the electronics, for example, being the most important. Clean the bike chain regularly and make sure it is properly set up so the gearing is smooth. Every time it jumps out of gear or you have trouble with the gearing, it could damage it, and I recommend releasing the power a bit when you're shifting. Also, make sure there is no glitch or looseness in the front fork. The pipe that the handlebar stem is connected to should be properly adjusted so it is tight, but not so tight that you can't turn the wheel. So for me, I really like this particular model because the total weight of the bike is not too bad at 25 kilos, which is quite good for having these heavy beefy tires. The weight distribution is good as the battery is located in the frame. I can even do wheelies with it, as you can see here. You could also reduce the weight even more with a different saddle and removing some of the accessories like you see in this picture here, and voila, look at this, you have a nice summer street cruiser. Just make sure you inflate or pump up the tires a lot for better roll in the summer and you're good to go. In winter conditions, you can deflate the tires a lot, which brings incredibly good traction, even on ice. I was really surprised how it gripped so good and how confident I was riding the bike in this video. The soft rubber material and good thread pattern on the tires helps a lot too. So yeah, I can really recommend this versatile and cool looking model. It has, however, a few negatives or downsides, which I will talk about now. But remember, in conclusion, you still get a really good bike, and I honestly think the positives outweigh the negatives. Number 1, I could not find mileage, range or kilometer status on the display. The battery indicator goes down like 2 bars under heavy power and up again when using less power, so it's hard to read or figure out the range, but I guess you'll get used to it. I suggest testing the range with GPS and then you should get an idea. Be aware that the range drops in winter due to the cold. The battery is quite small. I wish it was 48 volts instead of 36, and 15 amp hour would suit it better. But 10 amp hour can be enough depending on how far you travel, and it does bring the weight down a little. You could still pedal the bike without power, but this leads me to downside number 2, which is the gearing ratio being way off. It is made for speed, not hill climbing, so I really hope DYU fixes this in future models. It has a little too big front gear sprocket and no special climbing gear in the rear derailleur like mountain bikes have. Also, you can't turn off the power without turning off the whole unit, and that shuts off the display as well. The only options I found on the display was changing to miles per hour and kilometers per hour by holding the mode button and power button. And you can drive with 3 modes: economy, drive and sport, which also affects the throttle response. The engine cuts off at 25 km an hour, but you can still pedal it up to like 30 km an hour without an issue. The pedal assist function, however, takes a long while to kick in, like on most rear-mounted motors. Instant throttle control makes up for this, however. If you do want instant pedal assist, you need a bike with torque sensor or a middle mounted motor like the more expensive brands have. Another downside is that the bike came delivered with UK style brakes. For example, the right handle is for the front brake when it is supposed to be for the rear brake, which can make you go flying on your head if you're not prepared. Luckily, I noticed this before riding and easily switched them around by changing the cables, as you can see here. By the way, the whole unboxing and assembly takes about 30 minutes if you don't run into any problems. Make sure you check for loose components and bolts and that everything is set up correctly. Also, don't forget that the left pedal is threaded the wrong way, like all bicycles. Right pedal is right, left is wrong. A big plus is that the bike came with all the tools needed for assembly and adjusting brakes, etc. Also, you get big sturdy fenders or mudguards, a bell, a rear rack with straps, a side stand and protection for the rear gear shifter derailleur even. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this big saddle. It kind of makes it harder to pedal. On my current 29-inch mountain bike, I have a really small and slippery saddle, which makes me able to go really fast as the bike only weighs like 12 kilos. So I can just pump the pedals and get a really nice workout and speed because of the slippery and thin saddle. Of course, those are less comfortable, but that is easily solved with a gel saddle cover. And by the way, make sure you adjust the saddle position correctly, further back or more to the front, depending on what you like. Tilt the angle, yes, you can actually tilt the angle also to your liking. Also, you can actually adjust the height of the handlebar by placing the washers over the stem instead of below it. And if you want to change the handlebar stem, I think it's possible to mount the LED display on top of the actual handlebar instead, but don't quote me on that. Oh, and the handlebar grips are not really my taste. I find the rubber being too soft, but they get the job done. Another big downside and warning is that the rear caliper, the brake caliper, was loose, even though the top screw was all the way in tightly, as you can see here. Luckily, this was an easy fix, however, by taking some washers from the side stand and putting it on the top screw there. I was then able to tighten the screw and the whole caliper so it's not moving like this. Speaking of the brakes, these no brand mechanical cable disc brakes are not the best, but hear me out, they do get the job done. Of course I would prefer hydraulic brakes as they are more responsive and easier to push, but after adjusting the brakes properly and doing a proper brake-in and bed-in procedure of the braking pads, they then worked a lot better. So even though I weigh 90 kilos, it was enough braking power for me. Yippee. There is a huge difference, I really want to emphasize this, there's a huge difference with braking in the pads correctly. And this is especially important with these cheaper brakes. So, to do the braking procedure, you first adjust the brakes properly so that they are flush against the disc. This can be very hard to see, so use a flashlight or something. Check out the description below for a really good instructional video on how to do this. Anyways, to do the braking procedure, after adjusting the brakes correctly, you then ride up to high speed, preferably in a slight downhill, and you push one of the brakes firmly to a stop, not too hard, but firmly. Do this 10 times to both front and rear brake, one at a time. This creates a special reaction in the pads, making them more powerful. Another important tip, make sure you do not contaminate the disc or braking pads with your fingers or any oil or chain lube. I don't recommend using spray chain lube as they are too sticky and it flies everywhere. Personally, I use regular chain oil. You put the oil on the inner side of the chain, let it sit and soak into the chain for a while, and then you preferably even wipe it off, you know, the excess oil, so it doesn't fly everywhere and land on the rear disc. Another downside, like most e-bikes, it is not waterproof, so do not rinse with water while cleaning. It even says this in the manual, especially not high pressure. Use a cloth or wipes instead. And again, make sure to clean the chain regularly. It is very easy with these special chain cleaning kits. Also remember to regularly wipe off the shiny part of the front fork there regularly from dirt to prevent leakage. From experience, these cheaper forks can tend to leak and become stiff. Also make sure that you write down the RAM number here, or the chassis number of your bike. That could be really useful to have written down in case somebody steals it. Lastly, the throttle has an annoying cruise control feature which I don't really like. I don't know how to turn off except by tapping the brakes. I personally would prefer this feature turned off as it's activated automatically and can take you by surprise. Like when you're just gassing with the throttle and all of a sudden it just keeps on gassing by itself. And that's it. Overall, again, I still think the bike is awesome and worth it despite these minor inconveniences. In summary, it's still a good value for money, a stylish, practical and fun bike. I really like how the tires are the perfect size, not too fat, not too small. Take care of your bike and it should last a long while. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And again, if you do decide to buy the bike, please use my special links down below. Alright, take care guys and have a wonderful day.